project, that's true. Okay.
Thank you, Bill. Thank you, Nancy.
Okay.
Mayor, a motion on proceeding with the work on this project.
So moved. Can we put that form of a motion to adopt a resolution to be forwarded by Nancy Smith? That way you can go ahead and sign it to us when she sends it, and then we can, it won't have to come before the meeting without the
Okay.
resolution.
Good idea.
If you want to amend your motion.
So the motion's been amended to establish a resolution on the bridge work. Second. Who said that? Okay, Pat. Any discussion? All in favor? All opposed? And lastly, we have Tab here again. Thanks, Tab, for coming.
Morning, Judge, Commissioners. I have a informational report, or as I call them, status report about your delinquent tax situation. Just kind of update y'all on what's going on with delinquent taxes, so that we'll have a, for y'all, I guess the spring is budget time for the county, and as your auditor said, I don't think you're going to get rich from anything, including delinquent tax collection, but it is still part of the process, and you do need to have a feel for how much is outstanding, what is collectible, and what the prospects are for earlier collections. I've got a couple of different things in my handout, and first is what we call an AA report. It's about the fourth page in, and it shows the total delinquency as of March the 6th for Houston County at $434,266 and change. This is exclusive of the water control district, the hospital district, the other jurisdictions that your tax office collects for. This is just county only. It does include road and bridge, but it's county, not ESD or hospital district. $434,000. There are a couple of categories in there in that first box in there. The bankruptcies, you have a nominal amount of accounts in bankruptcy here, not a significant problem, but you do have, mom and pop gets overwhelmed or overextended, and they file what we call a Chapter 13 bankruptcy to reorganize their debts. You don't have any significant Chapter 11 bankruptcies, which would be a corporate reorganization. The next category is in trust, and those are properties that have been all the way through the court process, taken to sheriff's sale, and nobody bids on the properties at tax sales. So those properties are struck off. They're held in trust by, if it's struck off with the county, it's held in trust by the county for yourselves, school, and if it's involved in the city, then the city as well. You have a third category called deferrals. This is a law that the legislature adopted that's designed to protect and help, senior citizens. If you're over 65 and own and occupy your homestead, you can legally defer payment of taxes on your homestead. The idea being that a senior citizen shouldn't have to move out of their home because they can't pay their taxes. The bad news is with medical advances, you could live another 20 years and that delinquency, if you will, continues to accrue. The taxes are not exempted, you just don't have to pay. So if you live another 20 years, when you pass away, your children inherit not only the house, but they inherit the delinquency. So, but those three items, your bankruptcies, your struck off properties, and the deferrals, are three examples of taxes that are appearing in that dollar total, but are not necessarily monies that I can collect. So, or more accurately, they're not available for collections. The bankruptcies ultimately get resolved; they're not permanent. The struck-off properties ultimately get resold on a resale basis. Danette's come in a couple of times, so we've had a bid from a property owner to buy this property, but generally they bid 10 cents on the dollar, 25 cents on the dollar. They don't bid, what I call retail. Referring to the categories again, we've got litigation. We have about 40% of your tax roll in lawsuits. Now that's any stage of litigation, that is, a suit that was filed yesterday, a suit that was filed and we've taken a judgment and we're scheduling it for sale, or even a suit that's been to sale and struck off. So we have a nominal amount of partial pays. We have some bad address accounts, but not a significant amount for a county this size. About 10% of your tax roll is in bad addresses. A bad address could include a situation where somebody had a mobile home, it got repossessed and they've moved, they're gone. The mobile home's gone, the people are gone. They're still on the tax roll, but we obviously have a bad address. Now, our office, part of our job is to try to find these people, but sometimes when you've lost all your property to foreclosure or repossession, you kind of fall off the grid. It's a lot harder to find those folks. The last category is what we call action pending. You have roughly $180,000 there, and that category reflects the properties that are kind of everything. It's not in anything other categories. That is, it's not in a lawsuit, it's not a bankruptcy, not a bad address. Phrased otherwise, those are the green light accounts that I'm going after. The middle range on this box chart shows the dollar ranges of your taxes. For instance, everything from $0 to $100, everything from $500 to $1,000, or whatever the categories are. And just to kind of give you a frame of reference for your Houston County taxes, if you look at that category from $0 to $100, you have 1,910 accounts that are below $100. Now, it's just accounts, not dollars. And that represents 66% of your accounts. So you have a lot of your tax roll tied up in total accounts in nominal dollar delinquencies. But if you look over to the right-hand side, it's only 10% of your money. So 66% of your accounts are below $100, but it's only 10% of your money. So that's a lot of little bitty delinquencies. If you look on down, the biggest category is $250 to $500. It's only about 10% of your money, but 10% of your accounts, but it's almost 23% of your money. And if you look at those three middle accounts, from $250 to $2,500, you've got roughly 2/3 of your tax roll tied up in that range. And if you think of your own home and what you have in taxes on your home, it's probably somewhere between $250 and $2,500 in county taxes for your home. And that would include some commercial properties, but not a lot. The good news is the $10,000 and up, you've only got one account there, and you don't have any black hole delinquencies there. The last part of the AA report shows just the dollar range by year, and there's nothing surprising there. If you look at the second page of the report, and the 2011 taxes are just under $100,000, and as you go back year by year, it gets smaller as you go further back in time. This is normal, this is what you'd expect, it's what you want to see. You don't want to see it go down as you go back in time, and all of a sudden there's a spike in 2004 where you have a huge delinquency. So this means a number of things. First and foremost, no problems in your delinquent tax roll, but also that we're doing the job we're supposed to be doing, and as taxes get older, we're collecting. On the...
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
On your AA report here on the mid-range, for example, you've got 1,910 properties that have a taxable value of $0 to $100.
Right.
That totaling $49,000. I mean, is that worth? I know the aggregate quantity is worth a lot, but the amount of effort to get to 1,900 people for $100.
Well, that's where volume comes into play. We do a mass mailing. In fact, we're going to do a mass mailing in April. And when we do the mass mailing, even with postal increases, it costs us 45 cents to reach out to 1,900 people each. So that's where we hit them.
So you do have some positive results.
Sure,
Yeah,
sure.
okay.
And quite frankly, if you get a bill for $37, that's probably within your budget and you can afford to pay it. As opposed to if you got a bill for $2,000, you may have to scrape a little bit to come up with the money. So some of the smaller accounts get paid. And these can be anything from a small retail business where their inventory is not very big, their property taxes are pretty low. It also includes vacant lots, and that's where some of the problems come in, because you got a vacant lot with a tax of $30. They don't want the property, and they sure don't want to pay the taxes. So some of them tend to languish, and that's where we get some of the struck-off properties.
Now, what about the age taxes from 1978?
Right, the really old years, those are properties that have actually been all the way through the court system, and they're struck off.
These are struck off.
There's a 20-year statute of limitations, so quite frankly, if we haven't collected it in 20 years, we're probably not going to. So some of the ones that have the longer delinquencies are ones where we file a suit, take it to tax sale, nobody bids on the property, and it's struck off. And that's why we leave them on the roll, because at some point in time, somebody's going to come in and bid on that struck off property. And again, you may write off part of this money because they're going to bid 25 cents on the dollar, but we don't just write off public money without some legal basis or justification. So when it does get resold, then we write off those balances. I have some specific accounts that I have to mention, and before I get to those, I want to just discuss briefly what we do. I met with Judge Ford earlier this year after he took office and kind of went through the process of what we do, but just as a refresher for the rest of y'all, we do have, I'm in Tyler, we have a call center in our office, and we're telephone calling some of these folks. So some of the smaller dollar amounts, we can call the people and try to make arrangements for them to pay. Obviously, again, if it's a smaller dollar amount, they can pay it in full. So simple telephone call, we can contact these property owners and get payments. We do work on a commission basis, so y'all are not paying us anything for our efforts. So if we have to send out a letter, make a phone call, file a lawsuit, we get the same pay regardless of the amount of time and effort we put into the account. We did have, since the 1st of January a year ago, 2012, we've taken title work on 137 accounts. Now sometimes when we get title work, we find out that local bank has a lien on the property, we'll call the bank and they'll pay just straight up because the tax lien is ahead of the bank's lien. So if we have to file a lawsuit, we could actually cut off the bank's claim so they have an incentive to pay our taxes rather than to let us foreclose their lien. You think of your home, you buy a $100,000 house, you got a $95,000 loan to the bank and you owe $2,000 in taxes. It's a no-brainer for the bank to pay those $2,000 in taxes in order to protect their $95,000 lien. So we have some leverage there, but sometimes banks will tell us, well, we understand you're ahead of us, but you have to file a lawsuit before we're going to pay the taxes.